So dear students, this is fifth tutorial on course E101, and in this tutorial we will cover two topics. One is phasors, second is sinusoidal steady state response. So in phasor, what we do is we deal with a circuit containing sinusoidal uh, sources, and for such sources we try to represent the sources using what is called phasor, and then we also convert capacitances and inductance into complex impedances, so that we can use all the theorems and formulas that we have been using for the analysis of DC circuits containing resistors. And for the second topic, you can see that we have two things here. First is that the source is going to be sinusoidal. That means it will vary with time, like a sine function or like a cos function. And we are interested in voltage or current in the circuit for the steady state. So here steady state means that source is present in the circuit for very long time, and the circuit has been left there for sufficiently long time, so that everything, all the voltage and current in the circuit, they have attained uh, what is called steady state. Steady state means they are changing, of course, as per the sources in the form of sinusoid, but then there even the sinusoid voltage or current, they are no longer changing with time. Like there is a transient response, and in the transient response things also change with time, but then after sufficiently long time everything will come to stable value. For example, when you have DC sources in the circuit, and when the switch is either closed or open at some location in the circuit, then there will be charging or discharging of the capacitor. But if you leave the circuit in that state for very long time, then the capacitor will attain certain voltage. Either it will get fully charged or it will get fully discharged. And then all the voltages and current in the circuit in every branch will have same value. It will no longer change with time. So that final value, they are called steady state, and the intermediate value, they are called transitory. So for sinusoidal sources, we will always be studying the steady state, not the transient response. So fortunately, in the steady state condition of a circuit with sinusoidal sources, all the theorem of DC uh, sources are valid. For example, superposition principle, Ohm's law, and KCL, KVL, source transformation, Norton equivalent, Thevenin equivalent, all those things can also be applied with sinusoidal sources for steady state, provided we represent capacitor and inductors by suitable imaginary impedances or sort of resistances, but their values are going to be imaginary. So if you have anything to ask, you can ask, otherwise we will move to the problem set. So here we have a number of problems, and you are required to solve each of them. So first try this problem 9.6a. So here we have a voltage quantity and current quantity, and you have to find out which of them leads and by how much. So I will give you some time and wait for 5 minutes and then uh, explain the solution. So you try to solve it.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, in first part, current lead by 20 degree, and in second part, it is coming some complex thing in like 11.8 degree minus cos inverse something.
Okay. So let us see the solution of these two problems. So what is the key thing that has to be done to answer such type of question is that all the quantities given, whether they are voltage or current, which are to be compared to find out the phase difference between them, they all have to be converted into cosine form. So if they are not given in a single cosine forms, for example, if for case A, the current is in sine function form, so this sine has to be converted into cos, and then comparison of the argument of two functions have to be carried out to find out which one is leading and by how much. But in the 9.6c problem, the second one, C case, you can see that xt is sum of two sinusoid. First is cos, second is sine. The yt is given in correct form. It is already in the desired form. That means in the cosine function form. So for xt, we have to convert this into cosine form and then compare with the y. Not only that, when you convert into cosine form, you also have to ensure that the amplitude, that means the constant number which is getting multiplied with the cosine, always has to be positive. It should not be, say, for example, minus 10 cos 40 minus 60. In that case also, you cannot directly compare it with any other cosine function to find out the lead line. So it has to be cosine form with positive amplitude. So now let us see the solution. So as I mentioned, here Vt is already in cosine form with positive amplitude. So that is fine. We don't need to do anything about Vt, but It has to be converted into cosine. So this is given in sine form. So we know that if it is in sine form, then it has to be converted into cosine, and that can be done by subtracting minus 90 degree, because cos of something minus 90 is sine. So when we subtract minus 90 from the argument of original sine function, the constant term becomes minus 40 degree rather than minus 50, plus 50. So now we have IT also in cosine form with positive amplitude. So now we can compare the phase of these VT and IT. So actually phase means entire argument of sine function or cosine function. So the phase of VT is not minus 60 degree, rather it is 40 minus 60 degree. Similarly, the phase of IT is also 40 minus 40 degree. Since 40 is common with both the quantities, So typically we do not say that phase is 40 minus, we simply say that phase is minus 60 or minus 40. So here we have to actually find the difference between the phase of these two quantity to find what is the lead or lag and by how much. So here you can subtract say the phase of Vt from the phase of It, and you see that we get a quantity which is plus 20 degree. So we say that It leads Vt by 20 degree. And this can also be seen that what will happen here is that if you plot these two quantities in terms of phasor vector for a circular motion, then you will see that Vt will be behind It. So now I will show the video. So we say that this is the phase plane, and this phase plane is similar to what we encounter in circular motion, that there is a particle which is moving along a circle of constant radius with certain angular velocity. In this case, angular velocity is going to be 4 uh, because we have say cos 4t minus 60, and second function is cos 4t minus 40 degree here. So in this case, this was Vt with amplitude 10, and this was It with amplitude 4. So here scenario will be that you can say that your It is this one. This is It with minus 40 degree, and then Vt will be with minus 60 degree. So this is Vt with minus 60 degree. So here you can see that It is ahead of Vt, and this difference is equal to 20 degree. That means it will take some more time for Vt to reach to this location. But of course, by that time, It would have moved ahead. But the gap between them is going to be always 20 degree. So this is the meaning of lead and lag, and the amount by which they are leading or lagging. Now we will see that how the second problem is solved. So as I mentioned that every quantity always must be expressed in A cos omega t plus phi. Then only it has to be compared with similar type of other cosine function. So in the second problem, the second first quantity x is actually a sum of a sine function and cos function. So it has to be combined, and a single sine or cosine function has to be created before we can find out the lead lag. So let me show the solution. So here we have xt is equal to 12 cos 2t plus 5 sin 2t. So this has to be combined and single cosine function has to be created. So we will convert the second function, sine function, also into the cosine form, which becomes 5 cos 2t minus 90 degree. So now you can see that xt is basically sum of two phasors. First is with amplitude 13 and 0 phase. Second is with amplitude 5 but phase minus 90 degree. So the net xt or in xt in the phasor form is going to be sum of those two phasors, and we know that those two phasors, they are basically the complex number. That means 13 with 0 phase and 5 with minus 90 degree can be written in real and imaginary form. So we find out their real and imaginary form by expanding 13 cos 0 plus j 13 sin 0. Similarly the other one also, then combine them to get a single cosine complex number, and this complex number has to be converted into phasor form. That means its magnitude and angle. So this is also you can say polar form of this complex number 13 minus j5. So xt in the phasor form is actually polar form of this complex number, which turns out to be 13.928 with angle minus 21.04 degree. So this xt is actually real part of a quantity whose amplitude is this, and then we have e raised for j omega t multiplied, which will be cos 2t minus 21.04 degree. So this becomes the phase of the cosine function, and 13.928 becomes the amplitude of the cosine function. So if you write xt in the time domain, then this is the expression. So now we have converted xt into a single cosine function with positive amplitude. Yt is already in cosine form with positive amplitude. So now we can compare the phase of the xt and yt. So we see that xt is minus 21.04 and yt is minus 11. So you can see that yt will be ahead of xt at any given moment of time, and the difference you can find out by subtracting minus 21 from minus 11.8. So which turns out to be 9.24 degrees. So here also, see, if you plot them on circular uh, plane, then you will see that xt is uh, lagging. It is behind yt, and that is why yt leads xt, and the amount is 9.24 degrees. So once again, all these features, the amplitude of cosine function and their angle has to be absorbed into the argument of cosine function, and all the comparison always has to be carried out in cosine form. Any query up till now? Okay, so now we will move to second problem. So are you able to see this circuit now? So in this circuit, we have a capacitor 50 microfarad, inductor 0.1 Henry, and two resistors 30 ohm and 50 ohm, 50 ohm in parallel with the capacitor. And this circuit is what is called being excited by a sinusoid source, which is 60 sine 200t. So objective is to find out the time varying voltage across the inductor. And keep in mind that this circuit will be set up. That means you will interconnect all these components and then you will switch on the source, this sinusoidal source, and then you will wait for some time. Typically, it will be very small time in the lab, but theoretically, you will have to wait for some time before you can find voltage across inductor or through any these components in there what is called steady state. That means they will no longer vary. But strictly speaking, because there is a sinusoidal source, so they will be varying, but their amplitude and frequency, those things will no longer be varying. That is the meaning of steady state. So try to find out the voltage across the inductor. Okay, let us see the solution for this problem. So this is the circuit, and we have to find out time varying voltage across the inductor. So if we had all the components as resistor in this circuit, even in place of capacitor and inductor, we would have simply found out the net resistance across this source and divide the source voltage by the net resistance to find out this net current. Once we know the net current, the same current flows through this component also. So the voltage would have been the net current flowing multiplied by this resistance, if it were a resistance. But we don't have resistance here. So what we will have to do, we have to substitute each of these reactive elements, so-called reactive element, that means inductor and capacitor, by their reactances, which are going to be imaginary numbers, and then find out the net impedance across this source. And that impedance is going to be a complex number. But as you can note, the basic process of solving this circuit is exactly same as that of the purely resistive circuit excited by DC sources. That means find out the net resistance or impedance across the source and divide the voltage source by the resistance or the impedance, as the case may be, to find out the current, and then multiply the current with the reactance or the resistance to find out the voltage. So only thing that we will have to do now is do all these calculation in terms of complex numbers, and then when we carry out division of this voltage source by the impedance, that is also going to be a division of complex numbers. So first step will be to convert these uh, capacitance and inductance into their reactance form. So we know that capacitor has a reactance given by 1 by j omega c, and here omega is going to be the angular frequency of the source, which is 200 t. So note that although we talk about all the sources in cosine form, but when it comes to finding out the angular frequency, you can use the sine form also, because this does not get affected by the what is called phase. However, it is better to convert source also into the cosine form, because that is the standard form where all the calculations are carried out. So this 60 sine 200t can be converted into cosine form, like 60 cos 200t minus 90 degree. So here we have a voltage source in the phasor form as 60 with minus 90 degree phase. So here also you can see that frequency has remained 200. So omega is 200. So that is why 50 microfarad is equivalent to minus J 100 ohm. Similarly, the 0.1 Henry inductor is equivalent to J omega L, which will turn out to be J20. So now we know the reactances corresponding to capacitor and inductor. So they can be substituted here, and then we can treat everything in the usual way, the way we treat in purely resistive circuit. So we first combine these two parallel entities to find out single entity, and then we have three entities, this 30 ohm, the equivalent of these two, and for this inductor, these three quantities in series. So we can simply add them to find out the net impedance. So first, the parallel of 50 ohm and 50 microfarad is 40 minus J20 ohm. So the net impedance seen by source is going to be 30 plus parallel of capacitor and 50 ohm, and that in series with the inductor, which is J20. So net impedance is going to be 30 plus 40 minus J20 plus J20, and this impedance will divide the source. So this division can be carried out in phasor form. That means voltage source in phasor form divided by the impedance, which turns out to be 60 by 70 with minus 90 degree. So this is going to be the uh, net current that will flow. So the voltage across, phasor voltage across the inductor is going to be this phasor current multiplied by the reactance, which is J20. So 60 by 70 with minus 90 degree multiplied by 20 with plus 90 degree. So these two phases can be added, which will become 0. And then these numbers can be simplified, which will be 17.14 with 0 degree phase. So we know that when we move to time domain, we simply treat this number as the amplitude of the cosine function, and this angle is added to the omega t form, which is 200t here. So this is going to be time varying voltage that we will see across the inductor. After the circuit has been switched on for a sufficiently long time, that means when it has achieved steady state. Okay, so now we will move to third problem. Okay, so here you can see that we have a network which has resistor, capacitor, and inductor, and then we have one dependent source and one independent source, which is 10 into cos 1000 t, a sinusoidal source. So our objective is to find out the time varying current that will flow through this 3 ohm and through this 500 microfarad capacitor. So everything currently has been given in time domain, and from here we have to move to phasor domain or frequency domain and do the calculation in the usual way, and then come back to time domain. So these are the 2 or 3 steps from time domain to phasor domain, then back to time domain. So try to find out I1 and I2. First in phasor form and then in time domain form. No, ultimately, suppose you were given purely resistive network with 3 resistors in place of all these components, and you have these 2 DC sources, then that would have led to simultaneous equations in 2 unknowns, I1 and I2. So
Yes, sir.
there would have been only 2 equations in I1 and I2. Now also you will have only 2 equations in I1 and I2, but they will be initially in phasor form. That means equation will be for complex I1 and I2. That means capital I1 and I2. And then you will have to do little bit more calculation because quantities and coefficients are complex. But then things will turn out to be fine. It is not something which cannot be done on pen and paper. So let me now show the analysis. So fortunately, the source is already given in very nice form, the phasor form. So first thing we will have to do is find out the reactances of this capacitor and inductance. So that is going to be our impedance of capacitor and inductor. That will be 1 by j omega c, which turns out to be minus 2j, very simple quantity. And reactance of inductor turns out to be 4j. So our circuit now can be represented in this form, that we have a source in the phasor form or in the complex form as 10 angle 0, then this 3 ohm, and then minus 2j ohm for capacitor, 4j ohm for inductor. And then we have this dependent current source, which will be 2I1. I1 is the complex current or the phasor current flowing through the resistor. So now we have 2 mesh here. So we will have to apply KVL in each of the 2 mesh to write the equation in terms of currents. So in mesh 1, what we have is here, we apply KVL and we get minus 10 0 degree plus 3I1 plus 4j into I1 and I2, which is flowing in opposite direction, equal to 0. So this leads to this simple equation: 3 plus j 4j I1 minus 4j I2 is equal to 10. This angle is 0, so this can be dropped. That means this is basically a real number. Now in second mesh, we apply KVL, and that will lead to this equation, which gets simplified to 2 minus 4j I1 plus 2j I2 is equal to 0. So we have see 2 equations. Here we have a constant number in addition to I1 and I2, but fortunately in the second equation there is no constant. So I1 and I2, they are proportional to each other. One is scaled version of the other. So from here you can find out I2 and substitute in the first one. So you will get the equation in I1. There is going to be simple equation like this: 14 plus J8 divided by 13. And this you can find in the polar form or in the phasor form. Magnitude will be 1.24 and phase or angle is going to be 29.7 degree. Similarly, the I2 will also be a complex number or a phasor, and amplitude is 2.77 with angle 56.3 degree. So we have found out I1 and I2, but they are in phasor form or in the complex form. From here we have go to what is called time domain. By the way, these form, they are also called frequency domain. So there are various names for these form, capital I1 and I2, complex form, phasor form, or frequency form. So we know that from here, when we go to time domain, function, the nature is going to be cosine with angular frequency equal to 1000 t. So cos 1000t is going to be present there. We have to only substitute the amplitude and the additional phase in addition to this omega t. So additional phase is going to be this phase that we have found out, and the amplitude is going to be this magnitude that we have found out. So in the time domain, I1 will become simply 1.24 cosine of 1000t plus 29.7 degree, which we have found out here. And I2 will be 2.77 into cosine of 1000t plus 56.3 degree. Of course, unit is going to be ampere. And as you know, these are basically the real part of, I have made mistake here, not the real part of I1, but real part of I1 multiplied by e raised power j omega t, which is here 1000t. So there is a typo here in these two expressions. So once again, everything, all the key steps of the DC analysis will be valid for sinusoidal and phasor case also. Only thing is that everything is now going to be in complex form. And when you start the process, you will have to convert all your sources in this standard form, cosine form, A into cos omega t plus phi, and then proceed ahead. And once you have found out the phasor, from there, you can switch back to time domain by using this formula. That means find out the real part of that phasor multiplied by e raised power j omega t. Okay, so if you have anything to ask, you can ask. Otherwise, we will stop this meeting.
So, the answers of the questions and then we.
Hello, I'm not.
Hello.
Speak
Hello.
once again. There was problem.
Sir, can you send the solution to us for all the other answers for this tutorial?
Sorry, Tarun. Mm, there's problem
Hello.
with. You can.
Hello.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Now it is fine.
Sir, can you send the solutions for the questions? Like, not all are completed, I know, but still, can you send those?
What you want solution for?
No, for this tutorial, or can you like
So you want solution for all these problems?
like for today's tutorial, if you can give.
Yes, in fact, I have already done for previous two tutorials, and I will do for this tutorial also. I will shortly send all the problems along with solution, and the video recording of this tutorial will also be uploaded on YouTube.
Okay.
So this is going to be the standard procedure that we will follow for all future tutorials as well.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Is got cancelled minus 90 degree and plus 90 degree in last step.
I will show the video to answer your question. So what we got was VO in phasor form as 60 by 70 angle minus 90 degree into 20 with angle 90 degree.
Yes, sir.
So these are the three numbers, so they can be combined. 1200 divided by 70. So this will be one calculation that you will have to carry out. Second calculation you will have to carry out is this minus 90 degree and another 90 degree. So basically what is meaning of this 90 degree is that you have actually this scenario. That means VO is equal to 60 by 70 into e raised power minus 90 degree. And then you have 20 into e raised power plus 90 degree. Now we can see that everything is going to get multiplied. So you will
Yes,
again have this
yes, sir.
1200 by 70 e raised power minus 90 plus 90. So this will become 0. Right? So when quantities are written in phasor form and multiplied, actually phases they will be added, but the coefficients or the amplitude they will only get multiplied, and that happens because actually the power of exponents they get added.
Okay, sir. Thank you.